able to make it today. Can everyone hear me just fine? You can say yes in the chat room or give a little check mark or thumbs up if you would like. Great. Let's see. Okay, so we are going to go ahead and get started. So I will start by introducing myself. My name is Melissa Finkel. I am right now your current contact for the Maryland Collaborative Peer Coaching Model. However, I am one of a team here at MSTE. Depending on which pathway you take, you will be working with both myself and a number of other people here at MSTE, as well as people in our partner organizations. So just a little bit of background. Actually, before you even get here, this whole concept started as a Teach to Lead project, which if you are a master teacher, you'll be learning a lot more about. Teach to Lead encourages teacher leadership by looking for creative ways to solve what are determined to be problems of practice or issues that people would like to learn more about, or expanding learning within the school, district, state, or what have you. And so a number of teachers who had participated in the formative assessment for Maryland Educators program, as well as some of our district personnel who work on teacher induction and mentoring, came together for a Teach to Lead Summit around this concept. So this whole idea started from the grassroots level, from classroom teachers, coaches, and people who work with new teachers as well. And since then has expanded, and I will discuss that a little bit later. So our whole coaching model is framed around the 5 core propositions for teaching from the National Board for Certified Teachers. And obviously Proposition 1 and 2 are given, but we're really focused on Propositions 3 through 5. Teachers are responsible for managing and monitoring student learning, so we're looking there at, obviously, part of the formative assessment process, collecting, eliciting, and using evidence, examining data, and that can be done in a number of different contexts. Teachers think systematically about their practice and learn from experience, so we're looking to encourage and incorporate as much self-reflection as possible, which we know can improve practice, as well as self-assessment and learning from colleagues. And then teachers are members of learning communities. And we think this is really important. We know that for any practice to move forward, teachers have to have the ability to work with others around professional practice, in their content areas, in other areas of practice that may be useful to them. So that is our basic framework from which we are creating this whole program, and from which our entire state will be creating this whole program together, because that word collaborative is very important. So some of our goals, one of our goals is that teachers will shift to a culture of collaboration and 21st century teaching and learning practices. We now have the college and career-ready standards in math and English. We are switching and moving forward to C3 in social studies, which is really an inquiry-based model. And we have MGSS in science. We're also rolling out new standards in fine arts, in mathematics, or in PE and health, that really encourage these 21st century teaching and learning practices, where we want students to really be empowered learners and have control of their learning, to know where they are in their learning at any point in time, and to really put the onus on the student as a partner in their learning. We also want to see more effective, integrated, and research-based professional learning processes. So really looking at the research surrounding how do teachers improve professional practice, what are some of the things that we can do to improve, what are some of our ineffective practices that we're really just holding on to that we should amend, that we should really examine more closely, and who can we look at for really great examples of professional practice, because we know that someone out there is doing it really well. And then we're also hoping that our schools participating, our districts, and our external partners that we're working with will be able to identify the supports needed for improving teaching and learning, and hopefully through all of our partnerships, we'll be able to find ways to provide those supports. So as you know, over the past few years, MSDE has been trying to provide the supports needed. We've had a number of school visits. We have provided professional webinars. We have the College Inquiry conferences. We have our Summer of Ed Camps coming up. We're really trying to find ways to support you. And through this program, we have a fabulous number of external supports that will be helping us along the way. We have professionals in research and evaluation, which is really exciting. So we have a lot of people helping us with this project, and they'll be able to provide us with those great resources and research and support that we need. And one of those great pieces of research that helped inspire some of this work is from a recent report called Moving from Compliance to Agency, What Teachers Need to Make Professional Learning Work. And this is put out by Learning Forward and the Commission on Teaching, I believe it's Teaching in Our Future, that to improving professional learning, we need to have leadership in the school to create true peer networks. And we do this in a number of ways already, but what we're really hoping to do is have teachers visit each other's classes, ask for support in some of the problems that they identify, create solutions there in the school in that specific context, and then follow up from what they've learned. So it's that peer accountability, and if you're familiar with a lot of the work in FAME, or Formative Assessment for Maryland Educators, you're going to be familiar with this concept. It's peer accountability, it's peer support, it's really working together collaboratively in this collective struggle, as some of our educators have put it before. Another great piece of research that came out was from the National Center on Education and the Economy, and it looked at teacher professional learning in high-performing systems. So it's an international study, and in this study they looked at places like Shanghai, Japan, all over the world to look at what is most effective in peer or professional learning. And so we're really looking at this one model with lesson observation. So being observed by peers, superiors, or in walkthrough days for school leaders, it helps build a culture of collaborative practice, and it focuses on the students, not just the teachers. So we're really trying to look at what does this look like for students, how can it help them learn and improve in their learning, and how can we help support teachers collectively. We also looked at things like lesson study and a number of other methods that will be supported by this peer coaching structure. And honestly, this is actually a great report, so if you wanted to look it up and read through it, it's very user-friendly, and there's a number of resources in it that we're looking to learn from as well. So after going through the boring research, which I think is very important because we want you to know that everything that we'll be doing in this coming year will be research-based, but it will be revised based on feedback throughout the year, because what's really important to us and from our Teach to Lead team and everyone here at MSDE and all of our external partners is that this first pilot year, we'll be collecting feedback from the people participating in the pilot, but also educators around Maryland as a whole. We want to know what worked, what didn't work, what we need to fix, what language we don't like here in Maryland, what we think is more important, and what needs to be a focus, because we're looking internally here. What can we do to support? What can we do to improve? And how can we make sure that at the end of this pilot year, we have a structure and a process for peer coaching that we own here in Maryland. It's ours. It's not someone from the outside telling us what we have to do. It's those of us working on it as a state saying this is what we like, this is what we need. So the overall framework, just to go through this because it's kind of a larger conceptual framework for people. So we'll have a highly structured process. That process includes things like activities and guides and conversation starters for the pre-visit portion, templates for observational note-taking, self-assessments for after the visit before the peer coaches meet, conversation guides, debrief templates, and post-debrief goal-setting templates, because those next steps are so important. It's just like when we talk about eliciting and using evidence, right? Teachers have learned how to do things like quick checks and checks for understanding and exit tickets, but it's that next step of what to do with the data that we find to be the area that we have not focused as much on. And so we want to focus here on what are those next steps, how we change our practice. And then related resources throughout the school year for a library of screen materials related to the peer coaching or the 5 pathways, which I'll get into next. So we have an overall general structure that we're creating that can be customized for any look-fors. So you can have that observational note-taking tool, and you can customize it to, if you're looking for, say, math practices in the math classroom, you can adapt this to whatever specific focus. But we will have an overall framework that can be used for any context. Now we get into the pathways. So we're looking at this year 5 different pathways to sort of pilot and test out. We're looking also at an experimentation model, so we're going to try to find some schools that have some similarities and see what the most effective methods for our pathways will be. For the first one, we obviously have FAME, so Formative Assessment for Maryland Educators. We have Student Learning Objectives, School Improvement Plan Goals, New Teacher Mentoring, and that's not first-year teachers, that's second to fourth year, and then National Board Certification. And surrounding that, you see our other little roadway signs, providing feedback, collaborating, supporting, setting goals, reflecting, encouraging. So to get a little bit more into the pathways, schools will select one pathway. In their application, they select 2 and fill out the application for 2 of them, but they'll end up focusing on 1 this first year. And so the first one is FAME, so that's the Formative Assessment for Maryland Educators for Cohort 1 and 2 schools. With that portion, we'll be working specifically with what's called the FAIROP, the Formative Assessment Rubrics and Observational Protocols tool, and that will provide those specific look-fors for within the context. We have New Teacher Mentoring to support second to fourth year teachers and career changers, and those look-fors will be based on some self-assessments and some pre-assessments for those specific new teachers, because we know how important it is to personalize learning. Student Learning Objectives, and this is non-evaluative support only. And another side note is that none of the peer coaches or lead learners can be in an evaluative role. We think that's very important because we know that there's a certain level of safety and comfort that gives you. So that will assist teachers in the data gathering and monitoring. It'll also help them think more closely about how they're writing their SLO, the purpose of it, and how they're going to gather that data and how they're going to monitor and feedback. And we're hoping that within this pathway, we'll also provide districts some feedback and support and maybe some creative ideas about how teachers can really report out that data and what structures exist and what could really be helpful to teachers within that district in the future. School improvement plan goals, and so that would be something like when the school improvement team is creating those goals, thinking about how teachers could actually implement, monitor, and report out the achievement of those goals, and also thinking about how those can be identified and celebrated throughout the year. And then National Board Certification. So this would be to support teachers who are interested in or who are currently in the process or who have recently completed the process. So really supporting teachers in achieving that National Board Certification. And we know that in districts, the supports offered vary. So depending on your district, that may be slightly different, as will all of these. And so it's really important to our team that we work with what your current policies and procedures are and understand those to help you move forward. So to give you an idea of the structure, each school will have a lead learner. Well, that's interesting. Each school will have a lead learner. That lead learner will serve as the link between the school and the project team here at MSDE. They'll receive training, they'll provide feedback, they'll support teachers, they'll let us know what they need, and they'll be that contact. That is a lead learner. That's not an administrator. That's not someone who evaluates others in any way. So sorry if you are a department chair, but you also evaluate teachers. This is not you. It needs to be somebody who teachers can feel comfortable with coming and going from the classroom without any sort of implication or evaluation consequence. They don't have to have experience as a coach or a mentor. If they do, fantastic. But they should be someone who's interested in improving and supporting teachers and who has an interest in that pathway. They'll attend summer training with their administrator. We do ask that an administrator attends so that they can be informed about what's happening in their school and so they can help lead that work. They'll help with scheduling the walkthroughs at the school. They'll help with arranging bi-monthly webinar meetings. Those bi-monthly webinar meetings are overall meetings for all of us, so they'll help with the scheduling and the calendar. They'll participate in monthly pathway meetings, so that'll be everybody who's focusing on SLOs will meet and we'll talk about, give feedback for that, think about what resources might be useful, and then our contacts here at MSDE will also be providing supports and information on a monthly basis. And they'll help guide that feedback loop process. So letting us know basically how to keep that feedback loop open and what other processes might be useful. We are hoping to have some sort of technology tool that teachers can do that individually, but really thinking about what is the best method for this. Our timeline, so our application was released, oops, that should say due, sorry. It was released last month. It is due the 18th, so sorry about that typo. So the application is due April 18th by the close of business. I believe we're saying aiming for May 20th, schools will be notified of the selection. Now keep in mind that we're encouraging everyone to participate, but what we mean by selection is those that will be offered a stipend this year for the participation. Unfortunately, our funding is limited, as I'm sure you're used to hearing, and we're very used to saying, so we only will have funding for a certain amount of schools. However, we do encourage everyone to participate if that is possible. And districts will not be offering funding support. So please don't assume that if we're not funding it, that your district will, because budgets are shrinking, unfortunately, every year. This summer, we will be holding training for schools and teachers around the peer coaching structure. And then in late summer, our staff, partners, and school administration will create a calendar for the 2016-17 school year. So we will be working as a big, happy group to schedule all of those meetings, all of those calls, and try to do it at the beginning of the school year, because we know once the school year gets started, other things get added to the calendar, so we want to make sure that those are on there. Throughout the fall, we'll have walkthroughs, support calls, and follow-ups. In January, we'll have an event to go through midway training, some sort of tuning exercise, and an opportunity for people to meet and give feedback and talk in person. February through May, we will continue our walkthroughs, calls, and webinars. And then in June 2017, we'll be doing some evaluation, sustainability, and extension planning. And by the end of June, we hope to have our final product, our final peer coaching structure with resources, a library of supports, videos, anything that you can think of that would help support teachers and schools in implementing this process on their own. So that is just a little bit of information for you. And to give you the idea of the time commitment, the lead learner is expected to participate in 2 days of summer training with their administrator, and then participate in the monthly check-ins with the Pathways group. And those will not be long. It'll be maybe an hour a month, and just really providing any feedback during that time. We'll most likely have something simple like a form to submit. Teachers, monthly peer visits with pre and post submissions. We're looking for really interesting and innovative ways of reflecting. Some people have talked about doing blog posts or short reflection videos on like a TeacherTube channel, and then the bi-monthly coaching interactive webinars. So that'll be meeting as a group, participating in an interactive webinar as a group, having discussions while we pause, and those types of things. So I'm pretty much at the end of our slides. We have the website set up. It is MSCE Peer Coach, and I will paste that again into the chat box. Our applications are due April 18th. I encourage you to talk to your colleagues, your administration, and if there are any other participants. One of the questions that we do ask in the application, and the sample application is actually on the site, is who at your central office would be able to support or work with this initiative. Because we think it's really important that someone at the central office is aware of this work happening and can partner with your school to make sure that you're aware of all the resources that they may already have available as well, because we want to make sure that everything integrates very smoothly and that we're not, as we say, reinventing the wheel or adding one more thing on. So I am going to unmute. And if you have any questions, you can either type them in the Q&A. Everyone, so else now? So?
What are you doing? I was going to say, what are you hiding? Right.
So just so you're aware, everyone's unmuted.
Shocking. Scott and Jen have the bug right above their area. Saying something right there. Oh, you can leave it over there. I see you.
Okay. Are there any questions you have?
Melissa, can you hear me?
I can.
It's Mike Brown. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. Very quick question. I know you have talked about a lead teacher, but if I wanted to pair up two teachers, or if I have two teachers that's interested in being lead teachers for one of the projects, would that be okay as well?
Yes, that would be just fine. And that, and I think that would probably be very helpful to them, knowing that this is new. While we are focusing this year on just one pathway per school, it wouldn't be a bad idea to be thinking about that for the following year, that those two people could also focus on different pathways the following year.
Well, that sounds good.
Okay, are there any other questions? Okay, well, thank you. If you have any other things that you think of, please feel free to email me. Looking at the names, I know most of you, so actually I know all of you. So feel free to send me an email with any other questions. And we are really excited. Our partners, our external partners are really excited about this because since our Teach to Lead meeting, we have gotten a lot accomplished, and we have somehow gotten together just a phenomenal team of people, both here and with our external partners. So it's very exciting. So I'm going to stop recording right now. Once I stop recording, I'll be able to start converting it, and this should be up